Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor, and this is my first ever video on my Jedi Knight Trevin channel. I'm really happy to be here. Today's video we're going to be talking about what if Qui-Gon survived the Duel of the Fates. I've seen one of these videos before from Star Wars Theory many moons ago before we started relying upon droids much more often. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a little bit of a different turn, a little bit different of a branch. This is going to be part one of a 3-part series, so I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to drop a like and hit the subscribe button, as we're trying to grow this channel into a nice place for Star Wars fans who are Star Wars fans to be Star Wars fans. Without further ado, let's get right into this video. Part one. The living force. The Jedi believed the battle was over. On Naboo, beneath vaulting stone arches, worn smooth by centuries of passing feet, the Duel of the Fates resolved itself into something history would later mistake for certainty. Plasma scarred the air. A Sith Lord's fury vanished down into the pit. The people of Theed partied in the streets with finality, as if the planet itself wished to forget what had transpired on and above its surface. However, in the midst of it all, Qui-Gon Jinn remained still. The wound in his side burned, then dulled, then receded into a distant, manageable pain. His breath returned, his awareness followed. The Force lingered around him, like a steady hand placed on his shoulder, just showing that the Force was there and the Force was present. His survival was not a reward, it was a gift. It was a chance. A chance to be the Jedi, to be the man that he knew that he needed to be, which in and of itself was a consequence. Somewhere in that narrow space between consciousness and meditation, Qui-Gon Jinn understood that the future had shifted. The same future that he was meditating upon just before he was stabbed by Darth Maul. The future hadn't shifted dramatically or violently, but just enough that the familiar current of destiny no longer pulled him in any single direction. The galaxy had changed. This much was true. Naboo was no longer under the control of the Trade Federation, and for that the Republic rejoiced, because peace was back. On Naboo, in the Republic, sunshines and rainbows, plasma balls shared between cultures and cultures. Naboo's days passed in filtered sunlight and quiet conversations. As Qui-Gon Jinn healed within the palace grounds, he spent long hours in the gardens meditating, with the dense, unfamiliar flora feeding him, giving him the life that he needed. Moist air clung to stone and skin alike. Life thrived without urgency. The Force here felt alive in a way Coruscant never really allowed. It was layered, it was patient, it was real. Unconcerned with hierarchy, titles, Senate meetings, fake smiles, handshakes alike. His thoughts returned again and again to Tatooine, to heat and dust, to the chains hidden behind polite commerce, to a boy whose presence in the Force burned with untrained intensity, like a sun dragon. The Council believed the crisis had concluded The Sith had revealed themselves, but they were quite unsure. Was this the master or the apprentice?
Only two there are. A master and an apprentice.
But which one was destroyed? The master or the apprentice? A threat named was a threat contained. Balance, they reasoned, would follow vigilance and restraint. Patience, the Jedi asked for. But Qui-Gon Jinn had been patient for far too long, and it nearly cost him his life. Qui-Gon had sensed something unresolved, elusive in the Force. The Force pressed forward, insistent without haste. It didn't shout. It waited, confident that Qui-Gon would listen. Upon returning to Coruscant for the first time since his encounter with Darth Maul, the chamber of the Jedi Council felt smaller than Qui-Gon remembered. Tall windows that overlooked the city, but the air inside remained static, filtered, controlled. Masters spoke with care, their voices tempered by centuries of tradition. When Qui-Gon presented his request,
I wish to train the boy.
It was neither dramatic nor defiant. He simply asked to train Anakin Skywalker, and the council answered with certainty. No, he is not to be trained.
Too old. Young Skywalker is.
And what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? They spoke of precedent, of order, of dangers once faced and narrowly contained. Qui-Gon heard each and every voice of the unanimous decision to deny his training of Anakin Skywalker. And for the first time in his life as a Jedi, Qui-Gon did not feel defiant. He had grown too tired to defy. He did not attempt to redirect the conversation, because to him, the words no longer mattered. The Force had already withdrawn its patience from the room. As Qui-Gon bowed and departed, he understood the truth with quiet clarity, with stoicism, and with confidence. The Jedi Order served balance as an ideal. The Force concerned itself with life as it was. Before leaving Coruscant, Qui-Gon knew that he needed to meditate on the decision. This was a big decision. This place was all that he had ever known. Coruscant had been home to Qui-Gon. He grew up in the Jedi Temple. Qui-Gon Jinn was a Jedi. Yet, how could he plausibly call himself one of the Jedi if he didn't feel like he belonged? If he didn't feel valued? If he wasn't listened to? Qui-Gon knew that only one man could give him the guidance and the words that he needed at the moment. And that man was his former master, former Jedi Knight, Dooku, who, at this point, unbeknownst to anybody within the Jedi Order, had been working as the understudy to the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. And in their conversations, Dooku vehemently tried to talk sense into Qui-Gon. The Council's refusal had clarified his path. remaining with the Order would require silence where action was demanded. Dooku argued with rare urgency. He spoke of influence earned over time, of reform shaped from within, of patience, wielded as a tool rather than a weakness. He warned that abandoning the Order would leave it vulnerable to forces far less principled. And while Qui-Gon listened without interruption, when he spoke, his voice held neither certainty nor doubt, simply balance. The Jedi preserved peace through structure. The Force sustained life through motion.
The Council needs someone of your air. They do not have the foresight that you do, my young apprentice. Do not give in to your anxieties, as I did. You don't know the power of the Force. Qui-Gon, you are everything that makes a Jedi. You are everything that I was not. And for it, you have trained one of the greatest Jedi Knights in the history of the Republic, in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Destroying a Sith Lord as a mere Padawan, it's all thanks to you. But Master, there are no buts. Qui-Gon, you must do what must be done. Master, I've lost all confidence in the Jedi Order. And this boy, I do believe that he is the chosen one. He must be trained. He needs to be trained. For the Force has whispered to me. It has guided me here. From your training to now, this is the only Jedi that I will ever be. And if the Jedi are so meant to appreciate balance and trust in the Force, what Jedi am I to trust the Council over the Force?
Dooku did not respond. He watched Qui-Gon depart, recognizing in that moment the loss of the one Jedi whose faith had restrained his own disillusionment. Dooku did not respond. He watched Qui-Gon depart, recognizing in that moment the loss of the one Jedi whose faith had restrained his own disillusionment. Qui-Gon left the Jedi Order quietly. No ceremony marking the separation, no announcement echoed through the temple halls. The Council allowed it because they believed the departure inconsequential. One voice removed from a chorus of many. However, Obi-Wan Kenobi felt the absence immediately. He stood at the edge of the hangar as Qui-Gon was about to depart Coruscant, and he asked him the one final question. Master, did you ever believe in me the way that you believe in this Anakin?
My apprentice, I have always believed in you.
Loyalty bound Obi-Wan to the Order, but love bound him to the only man who taught him to defy. Neither offered resolution. Alongside his new apprentice Anakin Skywalker, Qui-Gon Jinn returns to Tatooine, and he's greeted with familiar hostility. Heat pressed down upon the streets of Mos Espa. Sand carried the scent of metals and neglect. Boonta Eve was finally over, and the crowd had very much dispersed. It was quiet. Yet, there was something very loud in the Force. Slavery persisted in plain sight, disguised itself as trade and commerce. But to Qui-Gon Jinn, people weren't property. And once more, Qui-Gon Jinn left Tatooine with a new companion. He moved deliberately. Conversations replaced gambles. Leverage replaced chance. And Shmi Skywalker's freedom came as an inevitably long-delayed, sought-after sequence of events for Qui-Gon Jinn. Shmi accepted liberty with disbelief, but ultimately so much gratitude, tempered by years of caution and service. Anakin watched on, and for the first time, he witnessed power exercised without fear, strength applied without cruelty, and in his mind, his entire outlook of the galaxy had shifted in such subtle but permanent ways. Qui-Gon took Shmi and Anakin Skywalker with him to Naboo, where, in the midst of his recovery, he grew attached to the planet. He felt the living force on the planet speak to him in every meditation, in every sleep, in every moment he was awake. It spoke to him in a language that he could not quite understand, yet it felt so fluent within him. And that was the world that nearly claimed his life, yet now it offered him something more gentle. Upon arrival, rain softened the air, and green swallowed all the stone. Stillness replaced any sense of urgency. Qui-Gon Jinn petitioned Queen Padme Amidala. He petitioned for a grant to train Anakin in secrecy. In exchange, he would give aid to the Royal Naboo Defense Force and her handmaidens training as a consultant. It was an easy decision for Queen Amidala. Of course, the man that did so much for her, the man that nearly saved her life many times, of course her allegiance would lie with him. Anakin's training began without any rigid structure. Mornings spent among roots and rivers in the vast forest. Evenings defined by reflection and meditation. The Force introduced itself gradually, with no expectations or condemnation to a code that was nearly impossible to live by. Padme always remained nearby, and familiarity grew naturally. Trust deepened, and no secrecy ever had to shadow their bond. And in the quiet spaces between moments, the Force observed. Patience was the backbone of Anakin Skywalker's training. And while the Sith anticipated destruction, they had no idea what they were in store for when Anakin Skywalker was being trained by Qui-Gon Jinn. This is the end of part 1. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. How would you train Anakin if you were Qui-Gon Jinn? And how do you think that having his mother around will impact his training? Part 2 is going to be coming out soon. Thank you guys for watching, and above all else, make sure to stay safe. Tell your mother that you love her, and with peace, knowledge, and serenity, may the Force be with you. Because I am out. Peace.